I call up the squad and we roll. Jolly. Hey, jolly. I call up the squad and we roll. Jolly. Jolly, jolly, jolly. I call up the squad and we roll. Jolly. Roll up with the squad, we so wild. You know I keep.
To what extent has being in isolation affected your mental health? So obviously we all respond, all us being individuals and stuff like that, we all respond a bit differently in terms of when it comes to time of crisis and all that kind of stuff, and different circumstances can get us to act different ways. So I guess, going back to that question, how do you think that this pandemic or epidemic, as we're looking towards, fingers crossed, the end of it, how do you think it's played a part on your mental health? Not just in like the positives or negatives, but just how your perception on life and stuff like that.
I think it was a big reality check. If anything, this whole COVID business sort of humbled myself a little bit. Exactly what you said. And what you said too. All these outlets for you to spend your money on have all been shut. But because we've been in COVID for so long, it's like a forceful training to, all right, for the first week that we were in lockdown, you couldn't go out, you couldn't do this, you were sort of confined in the restraints of your home, maybe work and come back. And then you sort of had to force yourself to either enjoy what you have available and that's it. But because we've been, we're like 9 months, 11 months into this thing, it's become like evident that, look, maybe I don't need to go out clubbing and spend $200 here on unnecessary stuff every week. I'm like, now I feel like, I'm fine with it, sort of thing. Yeah. So if we were to revert and go back, like clubs opening and stuff like that, you might either relapse and go all the way into it, or if anything, like this whole thing you've come out in a positive. You know what I mean? So for me, I feel like I've become very close with my family, a lot. My mom, my sister, my brothers and stuff like that. And I've realized the value in balancing my time between certain friends. So yeah.
Benson, well, before we started this video, you had a few points that obviously you're bringing up, and just wanted to, I guess, dig deeper on that one.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I think one of the biggest things I saw was, I think Yao just touched on it, was the time factor. I think I didn't realize how much time I didn't spend on myself and how that was affecting me, mentally. And so being able to work from home, being in that space where you were there from 9 to 5, you're in your bedroom, you come out, you see your family, you get closer to your family because you're seeing them a lot more now. And then on top of that, I'm not doing the usual routine things I'm doing. So I'm not doing checkups, I'm not going to church during the week and things like that. And now I'm having time to sit and reflect. And I think for me, like it helped my mental health in that way, because I was able to kind of just sit down and kind of detox and focus a bit more on me and look at where I am at life. I think another thing that I think COVID's really been able to do as being able to allow everybody to kind of sit back and just kind of reflect on life. Where am I at? Where am I heading? And what have I done to get to this point? So for me, I think in the aspect of mental health, I think definitely that. But on the flip of that, for me, has also been the first couple of months during COVID. I think I struggled because I'm a very extroverted person. I didn't go out partying and stuff like that, but I love human interaction. So the fact that I saw the same people every single day and I wasn't able to see a lot of other people kind of made it hard for me personally. Hey brother.
So you're saying the same people like your parents, yeah?
Yeah, like your parents, bro. Like the thing is, for me, for example, it's me, my mom and dad. It's just the three of us. Some people, that's it.
So you're saying you were just confined with just you and your parents?
Yeah, just the three of us.
Limited to
like that's
the environment.
No, I'm just asking. Live. Yeah, you don't have no dog, no cat. No, just three of us in one house. Like for me personally, like again, like what Yao said, definitely I think we got a lot closer. But at the beginning, it was very hard. I finish work in my room, I come out, see these people, they're asking you things like, one thing I realized is when I'm at home, there's a lot more chores to do in the house. There's a lot more to do in the house. And I'm asking you to do a lot more. And I feel like, wow, I actually value being outside of the house for some time.
Yeah,
So for me personally, like with the whole aspect of the being extrovert, for me, I think like it actually did weigh a lot on my mental health. Like I think I was like, when we started recording live at church, for example, my Sunday, just a 1 hour service. Like it was the biggest freedom for me because I got to see other faces, but the other two faces I see every week, and so I started using that as a gateway until things eased, restrictions eased, and we got out. So I think definitely for me, and I think for a lot of people, I'd say COVID has played a huge part in our lives.
All over the world.
But I'm definitely seeing it as a positive more than negative. I think there's so much we can take from that. I think there's a lot of things the boys are already touched.
I think even just following up on that, and I'll speak for myself on this one. I think when it came to the beginning of COVID and then maybe getting to like its peak in terms of lockdown and stuff like that, I feel like we were all faced with the choices that we were making pre-COVID and how that caused us to reflect on ourselves in the sense that pre-COVID, the person who you were is now you're seeing that person in the mirror, whether it's in your finances, that this is the type of person that you are, even though we all said, oh, let's say in 5 years time we want to be doing this, we want to be this type of person. On Instagram you'll be posting the quotes about strength and having certain people in your space and all that kind of stuff. But then coming into COVID, now that you're by yourself, the results or the consequences of those decisions of your old self and now is what is presented in front of you. And I think that was maybe one of the biggest like mental challenges that I faced myself. Not saying that I was out here doing the most and stuff like that, but in a weird way, the decisions or the type of person that I thought I was becoming pre-COVID, when I got into like lockdown and I was restricted in terms of movements, and now I'm faced with myself. There's no facade that I'm putting out or anything because it's just me in my mirror on certain days. It's almost like, wow, the person that I was assuming that I was becoming is totally different to the person that I was in reality being. And I feel like that was, as I said, was probably one of the most biggest, it was a big eye-opener, as everyone is saying that in terms of reflection and seeing the world and all that kind of stuff. But for myself, the consequences of my choices was probably one of my biggest things that I was facing. I know if you, Dylan, you felt you were like that or what?
Yeah, no. I look at it not so much as like what you said, the consequences of your choices, but what Benson said. I like what he said when he said it's like a detox. It was a time to detox. So like this whole COVID period for me was more of a detox and a cleanse period where it taught me, to be honest, it probably taught me the greatest lesson I could learn, which is that we are an adaptive species.
True.
So like, if you think about it, before COVID, if someone said to you, look, spend like those silly scenarios, spend 2 weeks in your house, don't come out, everyone would be like, nah, I can't do that. That's a long time. Now we've gone through months where it's almost been to that extent and we've gotten through it. So again, it's taught me that that's the greatest lesson I've learned, because obviously with what I'm doing now, it gave me that will to do it more, because I knew that no matter what happens, I'm going to adapt, because that's just in our nature to adapt. So if I push it and don't be afraid, that's what it was. I was afraid to take that first step, and COVID showed me that even if you take that first step, in making a mistake, generally you adapt.
That's right.
So you either learn from the mistake or you make corrections from that mistake, because you just generally adapt as a normal human being. So
is it because you weren't doing it by yourself? As in, like, we're all in this together individually in our own separate things, or?
No, so it was more just like I said, the fear of when I look outside to the world, there's so much going on that how do I know what I'm doing is even right? But it wasn't a question of what I'm doing right. It was a question of just do it and you'll find out. Yeah.
So I think I guess to go off that, I guess even posing a question would be like, how do you think in terms of, even with that challenge you're saying of fear and getting past that, what was like the greatest aspect, so to speak, that lockdown has kind of challenged you? Would it be more so in the physical aspect of not being able to move around, the emotional aspect, or your actual mental health? Even though mental health and your emotional landscape are quite they're tied together. I do feel like there's certain parts of your emotional landscape because they always say like what's good you can separate your body and your mind, like provided your mind is willing to do it, your body will follow. But so in that sense, do you feel like, as I said, financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, what was your greatest hurdle or obstacle that you had to get past in this, I guess, season that we were going through?
I don't know. Hurdle? I wouldn't say hurdle, but I don't know. I just found myself that I wasn't trying to let what was going around me get to me and affect me mentally. So my mechanism of defense, you know what I found myself doing a lot more? Like I just found myself like I found that when I'm bored I exercise. I don't know. That's just me.
That was everyone. Instagram,
like,
Facebook.
But like, and to me, I literally, I don't know, but I found out doing a lot more. Like, and it was more regular. I didn't have, and then I noticed I didn't need the gym. I actually was exercising in my backyard, and I used to go for runs, and I used to go for like lengthy runs, and it was just like that helped me to kind of escape and kind of feel good, especially mentally. Of course, for me in my circumstance, I also had the ability to still work, so I was getting that stimulation about 3 days a week where I'm getting out of the house. So for like, I think it didn't affect me to the point where others, they were in their house, like I still had the ability to go out, and I think I've noticed that I can't stay inside or in a place for too long, man. I feel like I because I get bored.
Yeah, but were you like that before, or are you like that now?
What do you mean that I'm?
Pre-COVID. Yeah, pre-COVID, you weren't exercising. You weren't.
No, I was still exercising, and that was more organized. So you had your soccer. I was playing soccer, organized, and I noticed when soccer came back, I was like, man, it was another breath of fresh air. Because obviously doing a routine and stuff, you also get bored. But I think before that, I had soccer, obviously church, and then also work. So you had other things occupying you. They reduced, and what I found more I was doing is, pretty much exercising a little bit more in my house. That helped me to kind of feel good about myself a little bit, So that's kind of what it affected, or in terms of what I did challenge. But I didn't actually allow all the hype and everything to get into my head, because I just try to block it out, like literally.
It got to a stage where it was just COVID. You're on the phone, COVID. You're on Zoom, COVID. It got a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good to disconnect.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Then you're like, a week's gone past, 2 weeks have gone past. I haven't really heard about it. I don't care about the cases here and there.
Yeah.
Just trying
Disconnect,
to focus more.
That's it. That's what I had to do. I literally disconnected and just kind of, try to go about my own routine.
Ben?
For me, like I noticed I was doing things like reading was one thing that like I can say that I hated reading. I hated reading with a passion. And like now, since COVID hit, this year I've already read 4 books in the space of like 3 months, and that's a big accomplishment for me because like, bro, pre-COVID I wasn't even reading anything. And it's just like, what I need to read just to get by. But it's allowed me to be more creative. Like now, like I've started doing like music.
Wow.
That's it.
Like
another banger.
Coming soon.
Anything, bro.
What's your
anything.
What's your artist? Your name? What's your name?
KB.
That's
simple.
That's simple.
Yeah, but it's allowed me to get into my into like me being more creative, me using my brain more. I'm like I'm a type of person that doesn't like to stay home, and now that there's things at home that I can do, like reading, like music, stuff like that, it kind of like eliminates all these other distractions, and it's a benefit for me because like I'm becoming more creative. I'm like becoming more of a creative person than I was before. It's something that I can take into like the next couple like years of my future as well. So just like thinking about things that are important or things that can benefit you in future, instead of like thinking of in the moment, is something that like I feel like
I guess to even switch gears a little bit. I'll put this to you, Benson. I don't know why, but did you ever feel like even in this COVID like pandemic epidemic, did you ever feel a sense of fear, like throughout it, or at any part? Did you ever feel a sense of fear, or not necessarily fear in the full extent of it, but like an unease in terms of this is new territory that we're all going through. Your tomorrow is not necessarily confirmed in the sense that they could say literally no one's even allowed to go out, no one's allowed to do nothing. The people that you said as being an extroverted person can't see none of them, or let's say even the fear of one of your loved ones potentially catching it and all that kind of stuff. Do you ever feel a sense of fear or unease in this whole situation?
This is a very good question.
He knows who his God is. That's why. That's why. He
That's my question.
He knows who his God is.
Jeremiah 29:11. It was actually a funny thing. I was actually about to talk about that scripture, and then you kind of said that. I think for me personally, like it just reassured and reaffirmed my faith.
Yeah.
I think times got super tough. Like I said, everybody's saying. I think we all got to a point where we're like, when is this gonna end? But for me, I think that's when I got closer to God, and I said, God, when? When will this end? Came. So I don't think there was an aspect of fear, but there was a bit of unease. I think there was a bit of unease there. It wasn't that I don't think it's ever gonna end. It's just when. It's kind of like a when thing. When are we gonna get out of this? So for me, I think it reassured my faith, and I would really hammer on that scripture because it really got me through. The Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you." I think that echoed to me that, all right, yes, COVID has come. No one expected it. For us that are African, we didn't hear any prophet prophesy about it, and no one has rather prophesy us out of it, either or pray us out of it. We're all kind of in this together. Everyone's kind of journeying on this together. But if I know that God knows the plans He has for every single one of us, then even if we hit rock bottom, surely we're gonna come out of it. And it's happened. I know for a lot of us, at the beginning of the year, we were all part of a big loss in our community, which happened at the end of last year. And I remember coming out of that situation, thinking that we just we need to do better for ourselves. We need to change our lives. We need to do better. But even at that time, no one knew this was coming. And then this hits. It's like, man, we were just trying to start, getting back our lives on track and that kind of thing. So yeah, to go on your point, I don't think it was a fear thing, but there was a bit of unease for me personally. I know for a lot of people around me, but I always knew that there was always going to be an end. And even now, I look at the future and say, I feel like COVID's not leaving us. It would diminish, but I don't know if it's leaving us now. But I'm not worried. Because even out of this, the collective came. So very true.
Actually, the collective was already cooking before COVID. Right?
Sorry,
we were just delayed.
I think that's. I think you're spot on with that one. But a question I asked to everyone, but I'll get you out to speak first. And I guess everyone at home, you guys can also answer this in the comments or in your own time. But I guess what has been in this whole process of pandemic, what has been your anchor that has kind of kept you from, let's say, slipping? Because you'll see, especially when you jump on social media, you'll see people who are going through, let's say their mental strength may not be as strong as yours, whereby they kind of, and especially in their part of the world, they may not be taking it as well as, let's say, yourself. But what has been your anchor that has kind of helped you, or helped you not to slip into a bout of let's say depression or anxiety and stuff like that, and kind of kept your head above water in this whole period?
To answer that, I'm gonna have to cheese it a little bit. I'm gonna have to say my missus and a few of the African boys. Obviously, like Vincent touched on before, we had a loss in the community last year, but I also had another loss this year, so I got hit with the double whammy, and plus then the COVID. So even through that, I feel like in the African community, even through the boys, I've been very, very, very close to them. There's people that I can speak to every day, and every time we are going to these events, I can go there, and there's even some African boys that I haven't spoken to in a while. And through all of this, it's a blessing that we have reconnected, and now we actually stay in touch. You know what I mean? But also my missus, just through everything, she's been my anchor, just someone to speak to, and she understands.
Shout out.
But it's been very, 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 very hard. I'm not gonna. I can't chase that at all. It's been very, very, very this whole COVID thing. And you need people like that in your life. You need people you can speak to. People who just, if you just want to vent through all of this, just to pick up the phone and them say nothing, just to listen. At least you're getting it off your chest. So the African community, and my missus.
And sorry, before I let someone else speak, just to touch on that, when you were talking about like the African boys, do you think it was because of certain things that you were intentional about that created that safe space amongst the African boys? Because speaking to an extent from experience, not necessarily that the African boys are not like that, or let's say in particular, let's say the Ghana boys, even us collective here, it's almost like at times we were major on the minors and minor on the majors at times. So like the little jokey banter stuff is always what will seem to take the bulk of our conversations. But in terms of creating that space whereby, like let's say the deeper things, like you were saying when you were dealing with your loss and stuff like that, how did you kind of create that amongst the boys that you felt comfortable sharing, and they also made it healthy for you to express yourself?
That's actually good, because before I can say there was just maybe minor deep conversations here and there, but when COVID hit and when we had the losses, it opened up like a bit of a safe haven for people to pick up the phone or to see me in person, or to see other people in person. And it's like they were scared to speak about deeper things before. Whereas now it's like, oh, you're going through it, so you must know what I'm feeling. So it's all right, you know what I mean? And then through that, other avenues, other topics through those avenues have opened up for us to speak about. How to, like, what's the way going forward? Maybe to push each other, you know what I mean? Get a new job, this and that. How do you adapt? This is how I'm adapting. It might work for you, it might not. So maybe try that out, you know what I mean?
Dylan, what was your anchor throughout this?
I'm a very different person when it comes to like situations like this. Like I didn't really have an anchor per se, because the way I looked at, like I said, before COVID hit. So like before COVID hit, like I said, it was just that I was in this sort of fear, not of COVID, but of what, like it's a big world. Like I'm a small person living in a big world, so the big world is what scared me. So when COVID came, it just, like I said, it gave me that realization that the world's not that big. Like it's not that big at all. So through that, I didn't really have an anchor. You could say I was moving recklessly. I was just doing things because I knew that my path is already set. So whatever comes along that path is coming. That doesn't say that obviously when COVID hit, I was going to the city and I was like, oh yeah, COVID's not around. No, obviously I was moving intentionally, but I wasn't phased by COVID. So like, for example, if they're saying, oh, COVID's growing in Sydney, I wasn't like, oh, I gotta stay at home now. I was just like, mate, if
you catch it, you
catch it.
Wow.
So
I get him. Actually, I'll let him. He just didn't let COVID affect his situation.
It's not arrogance, because obviously, like I said, I was still moving intentionally. So you wouldn't see me go to the shops and not wear a mask. I was still doing all that stuff with caution, but I wasn't moving like, oh, I can't touch this, I can't do that. Because I was like, look, at the end of the day, even if I have a mask on, COVID's COVID. You see people dying in the media every day. So obviously they were aware that COVID was there too. So if it was gonna get me, it's gonna get me. So I was just moving freely, if that makes sense. And obviously because I overcame that fear, it allowed me to move freely more.
How long did it take you to overcome that fear? From when COVID started to when?
Probably maybe when it got really big in Sydney, and I think it was like we were getting like about 1,000 deaths a week or something.
Hey, you see 1,000 deaths.
Sorry. I mean 1,000 cases. Yeah, we're getting like 1,000 cases.
Well, we're getting a lot of cases.
It was literally like it was just saying like up to 1,000 cases a week. That's what it was saying. And that's when I looked at myself and I was like, mate, if you're getting 1,000 cases in Sydney alone, it's either gonna get me or it's not. So
1,000 cases, hey, bro, look at it.
Relative
not that-
to population.
Relative to population,
it's not much, but
obviously,
It's not.
obviously it's a
hyped
spreading,
up.
it's
Yeah.
a spreading
Yeah, it's
pandemic.
spreading. It's
So
a-
epidemic.
It's all about the potential, I guess.
Yeah. So I was that's why I had that. I didn't have that fear of like let me slow my life down. It was more let me speed my life up. If
That's
that
fair.
makes sense.
No,
Okay.
I think to an extent, I actually do follow that train of thought, and I actually do see myself in those shoes in the sense that I do when COVID was obviously at its peak, and I remember at the very beginning, even when we were about to start recording some of our episodes, we had to stop it.
Yeah. But that was only because of the restrictions.
Yeah,
for
the
people.
restrictions. But then, and I think it was Yao that was actually the one that was like, oh, maybe we should hold off. Personally, for myself, no,
you brought the concern.
you brought the concern that,
but we just
Yeah.
because of the numbers. Of
yeah, and I
we
think
just
you
didn't
were
want
thinking of Kelvin's
Family.
your neighbors. That if we all parked outside, then we might get few issues.
Yeah, but that was in any time of uncertainty. That's what happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think for myself, I was even at that time, I was down to record, and even if not saying that we did, but I was down to record. Not in the sense that,
He lives for collective
not in the sense that like I didn't care. As this guy said, we all walked with caution, and obviously we were all aware in terms of social distancing and wearing our masks and stuff like that. But I guess, and I guess this might be a point that we may push for another day. But to an extent, I feel like the mental landscape of a black man is one that allows us the privilege of not internalizing a lot of uncertain and unstable circumstances that are coming out from like the outside. Maybe because the way that we are typically raised, we are told push in terms of everything, and the importance of our mental health and our emotional landscape is not necessarily there's not enough light on it, and because there's not enough light on it, we may not see its importance in giving it too much in attention or importance, in the sense that, let's say when it comes to a mental illness, like let's say anxiety and depression, if you go and tell your parents that I'm going through something like this, and as much as within reason, there may be aspects and times where you're actually going through something, and it's always important to talk to someone about that. Us exhibiting those symptoms and then us actually getting to that full extent of it, even our full extent of what we call depression or anxiety as a black person or a black man may be different to someone of a different culture, because they maybe are exposed to different things that we were exposed to, or the things that was placed that was made to be of importance is different to ourselves. So I think, as you rightfully said, just pushing through and persevering regardless of the times, but obviously exercising wisdom in that same sense was of high importance. So I think as a whole, I think we've kind of just spit our little truths and all that kind of stuff. And I think we've exposed ourselves in a positive way in terms of how we relate to uncertain times and how we apply ourselves in moments of instability or things that are out of our control, and kind of, I guess, finding our center and all of that. So everyone at home, you're more than welcome to put your own ideas and what you've used as coping points and anchors, so that someone else who's watching the video and sees your comment can also go off that, and if they find themselves going through something a bit tough, they can see like a better day and a brighter day. So that's it from us this week, and we'll see you guys on our next episode. Also, drop an episode idea, because we are always open, and we are always happy to speak on whatever you guys find important, because what's important to you guys is important to us, because #we are all the collective. So next week, or the next time you see our faces, hopefully will be an episode that you suggested. So we'll see you guys next time. Stay healthy. Yeah.
Stay COVID.
Hey yo, check it out. The Collective Boys are here for you guys. Now, if you do need someone to talk to or a shoulder to lean on, just DM us or message us privately. We're all here for you. Now, there are more professional services if you guys actually want to go and talk to. There's the kids helpline, there's the suicide prevention helpline, there's the mental health helpline and the police if you're in an emergency. But again, we're all here for you guys. So let us know the collective value.